That was great news, Jimmy, that 43 people signed up. That's just awesome. Hopefully more people are going to be joining. Just want to welcome everyone for joining in this discussion. Thank you. As you know, the state legislature this session failed to put any of the affordable housing mandates that they were discussing. But as far as our community and what people in our town have spoken about is, with housing options, I'm glad that you're part of this discussion, and we really do appreciate your feedback, everyone that's on. So welcome, and I'm going to let Kim take it from here. Thank you for all your work.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome. Jocelyn, you want to go to the next slide? Yep, great. So this is a chance this evening for your feedback on the next segment of the Housing Steering Committee's work on the plan that is required by the state. And we're going to be addressing several topics. Some things will be a very brief repeat of our first meeting in case those of you who weren't able to attend that first go. At least you'll see what we've been doing since that meeting. Your feedback is going to be really important on the goals and strategies that we've been discussing as a group and how we can move forward with that. The Housing Plan Steering Committee has been meeting every third Thursday, except for April. We met early and we got to meet in person. We were so excited to finally do that. We'd only been meeting online, so it was nice for people to actually see one another. Our committee has a broad representation from town, and many of the members are also volunteering on other boards and commissions. And Jocelyn Ayer is our consultant, and she's been hired by the town through a grant supplied by the state to help us through this process. And I think what's most important is that you have access to all the agendas and the minutes on our town website. And really important, and I read this the first time, and this is a repeat again, this slide, but the steering committee's mission is to create a housing plan for Roxbury with strategies that keep Roxbury the small rural town that we all love, while identifying additional housing options that are needed according to resident surveys and housing data analysis. So this is being built by what you have asked. Next. So this meeting is being recorded again. So those people who weren't able to attend, or if you'd like to see it again, you can do so online. Everyone's muted so that we can cut down on any sound. And then we're going to be using, this time different than last, a polling option where you're going to collect feedback along the way. So we will introduce a topic, and then there'll be several instances where there'll be a question or two that we'd like you to answer. And you can do that at the bottom of your screen. And Jocelyn can talk about that, how that works. Also, you'll be able to type in questions into the chat function, and that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. If you move your cursor, you'll see chat. And then we'll read the questions or comments in the order that we receive them. Okay. Next, I think it's going to go to Jocelyn.
Yeah, so again, as a little recap from the last meeting that we had about the housing plan, just answering the question around why is Roxbury creating a housing plan? And again, in July 2017, the state legislature did pass a new law requiring every town in the state of Connecticut to have a housing plan and to proactively think about the housing needs of current and future residents and workers in every town, and specify how the town intends to increase the number of affordable housing units in the municipality. The plan itself doesn't have to be limited to creating those affordable options, but it does have to include that as well. So what the steering committee here in Roxbury has been talking about is kind of the range of housing options that are needed in Roxbury, and specifically how to how those can be addressed, which is, the topic of discussion for tonight. And again, just underscoring that this is a plan, rather like your town plan of conservation and development. So it is a guidance document meant to be used by your town boards and commissions when they're making decisions and considering policy changes, but in and of itself, it doesn't, for example, change your zoning regulations. That would be, there could be zoning recommendations in here. We'll talk about some tonight, but those would go to the zoning commission for further consideration, assuming that those are recommended in this housing plan. So we do hope to have a draft Roxbury housing plan in July. We did want to get some feedback from the community first on some of the, again, strategies, and goals, which is the purpose, again, for tonight's meeting. But this slide sort of shows you all the things that will be in Roxbury's housing plan. Again, we covered a lot of this at the last meeting in terms of what the committee heard from the resident housing needs survey, the data analysis. And so this next step is, again, focusing in on what the goals will be for meeting Roxbury's housing needs. Maybe looking around at some of the neighboring towns and what they're doing and whether there's anything that, Roxbury is interested in. Kim, do you want me to do this one? I can do it. So again, what the Housing Plan Steering Committee has done so far, again, is really look at the survey results from that housing needs survey and the data about your existing housing stock and your demographics, and think about, specifically what are Roxbury's housing needs. And the core need that's been focused on is the need for smaller, lower maintenance housing options, either for downsizing older adults and seniors, and or for young adults and young families that don't yet need, for example, a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom home. So below that on this slide are just some facts and figures around that kind of show that need. Again, 82% of your existing housing stock is designed for families with children, but only 20% of your households have children. And you currently have 80 seniors on your waiting list for the units at Bernhardt Meadows. So there are basically two types as we work through sharing with you some of the goals and strategies that the committee is considering. There's sort of two types of strategies in there. One type would create options that would be kind of more affordable by nature. So they would be the smaller sized units potentially on smaller lot sizes, but they wouldn't be dedicated or restricted. So accessory apartments are an example of that. And then there's another type of options that are in there to remain affordable to households earning less than 80% of the area median income. So those would meet the state's definition of housing that's affordable. And again, you do have 165 households in Roxbury that do earn below 80% of the area median income. So those are that's sort of the core need that the committee has been working on goals and strategies to address. And with that, I think, Charlie, you're going to talk about this one.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charlie Stoffaker. My wife, Sue, and I live on Rocky Mountain Road. So I'm just got a couple of comments on this slide. It says that the Housing Trust will be a private nonprofit organization. And we say private because it's not going to be part of the town of Roxbury. And as a nonprofit organization, it'll be incorporated in the state of Connecticut as a non-stock corporation, and it will also receive a tax exemption from the IRS. And that will allow the trust not to pay income taxes on any land or money that's given to it. And it will also allow people who do give land and money to take a tax deduction for that. This structure as being a Connecticut corporation, non-stock corporation, and being qualified as an exempt organization with the IRS is exactly the same structure that the Roxbury Land Trust has, the Friends of the Roxbury Senior Center has, and most other charitable organizations, I'm sure, are the same in Roxbury. Once established, we want the trust to be able to receive donations of land and money and to proceed with either possibly constructing housing or working with Habitat for Humanity. And this will be up to the board of directors of the Housing Trust. So we're having a informational initial meeting on Monday, May 23rd at the town hall, 7 p.m. And I hope that several of you who are on the Zoom will be interested in working with the Housing Trust, and I hope to see some of you then. Okay, Jocelyn.
Thanks, Charlie. So we are going to have a polling question around this. And I just wanted to show you a few examples from some other towns in terms of what their local housing organization does. As the slide mentions, Washington has a housing trust type organization. So does Litchfield, Kent, Cornwall. And I'm just going to show you briefly some of the developments that they've been able to do to create those housing options that are affordable for their residents. And again, these are just examples from other towns. It's not necessarily what Roxbury is going to do. Just want to sort of show you the Washington Community Housing Trust has 4 developments. One is, I think I have some more pictures here, Vincent Farm, that has 3 homeownership units on it. They also have a 14 home development, a 12 home development for seniors, and then an 11 unit development on Church Street. So this is sort of what Washington has done over many years. They've been around for a while. The Litchfield Housing Trust is another housing trust in the region. They serve Litchfield. Obviously, they've done a few different kinds of projects, including a renovation of a 19th century schoolhouse into 4 rental units. They've built a neighborhood of 10 single family homes for first time home buyers. And then they've also done some scattered site, single family homeownership units around town. Currently, they're building a development called Gagarin Place in Litchfield. It's 8 homeownership units, solar panels, very sustainable in terms of energy use. This is what it looked like about a month ago. I bet the siding is probably all up by now, but this is 8 homeownership, affordable homeownership units in Litchfield. So I just wanted to show folks that in case they were sort of interested in what housing trusts do in other towns. We do want to launch our first set of polling questions around this goal of forming a Roxbury Housing Trust. But we have a test polling question first to just make sure everyone can use their polling feature. So I'm going to launch the first important test question here. And it should come up on your screen to vote for the best dessert. So you should be able to answer what the best dessert is. If you have any problems, again, you could raise your hand or go in the chat box, but it should just pop up on your screen and you should be able to respond. So looks like we've got 19 of you have responded, 21, 22.
Kale, really, people? It's like you're not even trying. I have to question this.
There's always got to be one kale person, right?
There's three.
There's
It's the same
three.
as pie and cookies. I'm a
Okay.
host, so I can't vote. I'd be on the pie.
So can everyone see what the responses are?
I can.
Oh,
Can they?
No.
sure.
We're
No.
hosts, so we see a different view.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we will show you what the responses are. So I only got 22 people out of 25. I hope that doesn't mean the other three can't make it work, but I'm going to go ahead and share the results with you that 3 people indeed believe kale is a dessert. We are worried about you. And we agree with you. I think many people agree on the ice cream front. So, okay, we just wanted to make sure that the polling feature was working. Let me launch the next polling question. All right, we are curious of the folks here. Would you consider volunteering if and when a Roxbury Housing Trust is formed?
And as you can tell, this is anonymous.
Yes, we do not know who says yes and who says no. We
Or
just
who
want to
says
get
kale.
or who said kale. And I do want to put the link in the chat box to the yeah, I'll get that in a minute, but I will put the link in the chat box for oh, I didn't share the results with you. Where did those go? Oh. These are the results. And I will put in the chat box in a minute. I just need to find the link to the RSVP. Again, for the folks who are interested in considering volunteering, there, as Charlie mentioned, there will be a meeting on May 23rd for those just want to hear more about that opportunity. And I will put a link in the chat box to the RSVP form in a moment. I think we had one more polling question. Here's our next polling question. All right. These are the results from that. Great. So now we're going to go to our next goal. I did put the Google form if you want to RSVP for that meeting on the 23rd in the chat feature. So if you would like to, it is there. All right, let's see, moving along to first-time home buyer options. Is Julie on? There you are, I see you.
Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Steers. I live on Transylvania Road. So I just want to cover one of the goals we discussed with our group was to support first-time home buyer options in Roxbury. So, two of those would be educational. And the first would be to let residents know about the opportunity to donate land to the Housing Trust or to Habitat for Humanity to allow them to build first-time homebuyer homes. And I think, Jocelyn, right, we're going to talk more about Habitat in the subsequent slides. Also would be to create awareness of some programs through the state and through federal that provides assistance to help for down payment for income eligible first-time home buyers, as well as education classes for people who are looking to buy homes for the first time. And I believe that we have people in town that have participated in these programs.
Yep.
And then the third would be to partner with the Roxbury Land Trust. And I can speak to that. If the land trust is offered a parcel that maybe we're not interested in, it doesn't have the right conservation value, there can be a conversation with potential donors to see if they want to donate their land or a portion that maybe doesn't fit in a conservation scheme or plan to be used for affordable housing. So it's a way to have communication across organizations, and two nonprofits in town, to allow to achieve it. It doesn't take away from the land trust goal to work with a housing trust, because it would be land that is just would make more sense to be developed in a way for affordable housing.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, so I just wanted to, we have a slide here in case folks don't know what Habitat for Humanity is. It is a organization that has chapters all over. There are a couple chapters that serve this part of Connecticut, and basically what they do is create home buyer options that are affordable for households at 60% of the area median income. That ends up being a mortgage that costs, with a monthly cost of between $800 and $1,100 a month. So that is an option. Again, there's this goal of getting a Roxbury Housing Trust up and going as well. But just in case folks didn't know what Habitat for Humanity was, we wanted to kind of explain that. So I'm going to launch the polling questions related to this. The first one is, do you support the goal of creating more first-time home buyer options in Roxbury? And Kim, I assume you're keeping an eye on that chat in case anybody has questions.
Yep, right now you're the only one that has.
Okay. All right, we've got most folks. These are the results for that. And believe
It's
we
nice
have-
having the immediate results like that. That's good.
And then the next question is, how many of these first-time home buyer options would you like to see created in Roxbury over the next 5 years? So this housing plan is a 5-year plan, and we're trying to think about some goals for how many units, how many home buyer options the town might want over the next 5 years. Seems like people are still thinking about this one. Let me give you 2 more seconds. All right, I'm gonna share the results with you.
It's pretty evenly divided. Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to write everything down so I don't. All right. So those were the polling questions around that. Again, if anyone has questions about these specific strategies that you want to ask before we poll you about them, let us know. You can type it into the chat. But we will also have time for question and answers at the end as well. All right. So I believe this is Jim.
Okay, thank you. I'm Jim Conway, currently a member of the Roxbury Zoning Commission, of which Bill Horrigan is chairman and Kim is our vice chairman. And I was asked to be the spokesperson for the commission on what zoning can do and actually has done some of pertaining to housing. And to begin with, rentals, you can have currently in Roxbury 3 rental units on one lot. You have your primary house. Within that, you can have small apartment up to, I believe, 40% of the square footage of the primary. So there's 2, and then you can have an accessory structure. Actually, you can have an accessory house up to 1,800 square feet on the same lot. Those are current regs that are in place. We made some changes in the past to allow for 3 rental units per lot. And then with that, the Zoning Commission is constantly looking into what we can do to make it somewhat more affordable in making smaller lot sizes, possibly within Zone A. With the smaller lot size, we would limit the size of the home to a smaller type home. And then small things that will actually save money, sharing a driveway, less road frontage, and stuff like that. Just making everything downsize smaller, which may lead to slightly more affordable housing. And we can change interior lot sizes down to smaller lot sizes, making that a little more affordable. Basically, our concentration has been within the center of town, Zone A, which is all in the center of Roxbury. And then multi-unit housing. that we're going to, there's our map when the zone A is the circle. And we're in preliminary discussion of possibly, instead of a circle, actual going to meets and bounds to make it clearer as to the boundaries of zone A. The circle's been with us many years, and we're cautiously looking into making some changes to making zone A a little more definitive. Anyway, and then multi-units, larger homes into structures 2 to 4 units. Basically, this is still rentals. And yes, I would say within the commission, we're partway there by allowing 2 units within the primary. One is just smaller. You change that size to where instead of 40%, 50%, then you got 2 equal size units of rental space. So basically zoning, we follow the POCD. We use that as our guide, what the plan of conservation and development chose for us to look into. And so we basically follow the POCD and follow anybody's recommendations. We're open to looking into making amendments and adjustments to the regulations. And any questions, please feel free to contact any member of the commission, Mr. Horrigan or Kim or myself.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jim. Yeah, so the ideas that have been discussed by the Housing Plan Steering Committee, as Jim mentioned, just in summary, the idea of allowing the conversion of larger homes, allowing duplexes or 2 families, returning zone A to 2-acre lots, and also considering whether additional units could be added to Bernhardt Meadows. I just have a picture in here of Bernhardt Meadows. If you haven't been there or haven't seen it, it is currently 18 homes for seniors in Roxbury. It basically is the housing that is affordable to seniors in your community. And as I mentioned, there are many, many folks on the waiting list. So that is one strategy that has been discussed. And I will just launch the polling questions around this. All right, so the question is, do you support this goal of allowing the development of smaller sized homes that could be used for downsizing options for older adults or to accommodate the needs of young families? Okay, I think most folks have responded. These are the results. And I'll launch the next question, which is, would you support allowing the conversion of existing homes or structures into 2 to 4 units? All right, you guys were fast on answering this one. All right, the next question is whether you would support allowing 2-family homes through zoning. So this is just a little different than an accessory apartment where you have a larger primary dwelling and then a smaller accessory apartment. This would allow, for example, a duplex or a 2-family with 1 family above and 1 family on the first floor, for example, and 1 family on the second floor. All right. All right, these are the results on that one. Okay. This is the next question. This is about that zone A, that circle. Currently, it's a circle. As Jim mentioned, they're working on that, but within that zone A, whether you would support allowing or going back to a 2-acre lot size. All right, I'm going to end the poll. This is the results for that one. And one last polling question on this. Would you support the addition of 4 to 8 units at Bernhardt Meadows? All right, I'm going to end that one. Here's the results of that. Okay. So now we are on to accessory apartments, Jim.
Oh. Choice for your people. No. Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned before, zoning has already worked on and amended some of our regulations dealing with accessory apartments. Before we changed all this, the sizes were much smaller. The one within the primary has always been, I believe, 40% of the square footage of the primary. And it also required the primary to be occupied by the owner of the property. So that part we changed. We no longer require the owner of the primary to live there, so it creates another rental. And then the accessory apartment, like it used to be, people would put an apartment over their garage, a freestanding garage, and you would put an apartment up over that. But there again, you're limited. At the time, you were limited to the size. So we changed that reg to where you can go up to 1,800 square feet of a freestanding separate either apartment over a very large garage or a freestanding 1,800 square foot home can be built on your existing lot, providing, all the other criteria has been met as far as septic and well water and what have you. So there again, it gives you the three dwelling units per lot. And, you know, yes, to encourage accessory apartments, it's a hard thing, you know, to say we definitely want to encourage it, but not everybody is on the same page as far as having a tenant within your home. It's obviously difficult. It could be. The freestanding 1,800 square foot dwelling could be on part of your property you don't even see. So that one, to me personally, is probably more attractive, that everyone could build something that large and rent it out. That would definitely, we would encourage. So yeah, that's about the best we can do as far as accessories right now per lot. I can't see, the 3 is basically it right at the moment, and it's you know, it's a pretty good start.
Thanks, Jim. Again, I think what the Housing Plan Steering Committee has been talking about is just ways to increase awareness for residents who might be interested in this. Creating an accessory apartment can obviously, you know, it could create a space for a family member, you know, like an older child or a parent. But, you know, also could, you know, once you're a senior, it might provide, you could move into the apartment and have the larger home be available to somebody who will be around to help shovel snow and stuff like that. So the idea is just to increase awareness about this opportunity for any homeowner who is interested in it. So the strategies included articles in the town newsletter, creating a checklist to try to make it a little easier to think through the steps in the process of creating one. And then also to just let residents know about the importance of having some more year-round rental options available. We do see a lot of accessory apartments in the region are Airbnb or short-term rentals. And those don't have quite the impact in terms of allowing, you know, year-round residents to have another housing option. So just thinking about how to do that as well. So we do have a few polling questions, I think maybe a couple on this. This is just a general, did you
got it.
You guys see it? All right. This is just a general question of whether you support this goal of increasing awareness about this opportunity for folks in town to create these options. All right. Here's our results on that one. And then we're just curious whether you are interested in learning more about the possibility of creating an accessory apartment. As Jim mentioned, you know, it's not of interest to everyone. We totally understand that. But we're just curious how many folks on the call tonight might be interested. All right. Here's the results on that one. All right, so I did see Larry. Just in case you guys don't know, Larry is literally the guru of CDBG, small cities funding, living right here in your town, in your neighborhood. Go ahead, Larry.
And you want me to, what do you want me to do? I mean,
Well, maybe you could just explain the housing rehab loan program. Again, I'm sure you helped the town probably get this way back in the day, and what it can be used for.
And actually, I was thinking about this as we were having this meeting. Several years, 4 or 5 years ago, we got the town, I think, $300,000 to provide a revolving loan fund for housing rehabilitation for households that were at or below 80% of median income based on their family size. I know we did many projects in town, probably 10, 12 houses. And when I retired, I don't know if it's still going on. I think it is to some extent, although I don't think you've gotten any more capital funds. Those funds are still available, but unless it's somebody can carry it out and there's a need for it or there's a demand for it, you'd have to go back to the state and ask for more funds. But it's a program that puts a lien on the property to make sure it stays for the use it was given to, so that somebody doesn't rehab their house who's low and moderate income and sells it as a profit and takes off. So there are some restrictions to it, but it's funds that come from the state through the federal government. And I'd say many of the towns you mentioned, like Washington, and those towns have used those funds for this stuff, these kinds of things in the past. So what else can I tell you?
Well, if people have questions, Larry's the one to ask.
Okay.
But again, this is just another strategy we've talked about, is this CDBG, small cities funded housing rehab loan program that the town does have access to.
Right. For example, these funds also did that major renovation to the senior center probably 10 years ago. So it's a program that assists with, quote, low and moderate income households, seniors, disabled, limited income families, things like that.
Yep. And the other note sort of on the slide is just, again, in terms of the data that we looked at, it showed us that there were over 100 households in Roxbury that were paying more than 50% of their income on housing costs, which is considered severely cost burdened.
It would be interesting to know how much of that money has been repaid, and because it is a revolving fund. When somebody sells their house, it's a no payment, no interest loan that comes back to the town to be used again.
Right.
So I'm sure the first selectman knows how much is back and how much is there. So.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
And we are on to Peter, I believe. Do you guys see Peter? I do not see him. Well, Peter was going to cover these, but I can do it if you'd like. This is just a couple. Obviously, if the town is going to have a plan, it'd be nice if the plan is implemented. And I mentioned this housing plan is a 5-year plan. Your town plan of conservation and development, which is, you see the cover photo here, that is a 10-year plan. One of the ideas around making sure that these strategies get implemented over the coming 5 years is to hold an annual meeting, a sort of implementation meeting, where you get all the folks that are tasked with these goals and these strategies to meet and report on their progress and sort of decide on goals for the upcoming year. This housing plan could also be adopted as an appendix to or incorporated in, depending on what the Planning Commission wanted to do, into your town plan of conservation and development. So that would be another way of kind of ensuring implementation. So I think one of the other things, again, we wanted to cover is, if there are folks on the call tonight that are wondering kind of what they can do to help, obviously we mentioned the opportunity if you are interested in being a part of a new Roxbury Housing Trust organization. There is that meeting coming up for anyone interested on Monday, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Obviously, the Zoning Commission wants feedback at its meetings when any zoning amendments are being considered or discussed around creating these kinds of housing options that we talked about tonight. There will be a public hearing to adopt this plan, and we'd love for all of you to attend as well to give feedback at that point. We talked about the opportunities for donating land, buildings, or funding, especially once you get a local housing organization up, made up of your neighbors. And then if you have other ideas or questions around that about what you can do, we volunteered Kim's email address. And we just have one more slide, and then we can get to any other questions, comments, or ideas that folks have that are here tonight. And again, we're so thankful for your time. Just to talk about the steps in the process and kind of what the next steps are. As we mentioned, the needs assessment and the survey was done October through January. We had the first town informational forum about the housing plan at the end of January. And then the Housing Plan Steering Committee got busy working on the draft goals and strategies that you heard about tonight. We'll be drafting the actual housing plan, kind of sticking it all together. In June and July, we hope to have a draft out to the public in July. And then it will go through a formal adoption process. Again, there'll be a formal public hearing for adoption. And so again, stay tuned. Feel free to share more feedback with us tonight or to email Kim if you have other feedback. We'd love to hear it before we start, putting everything together into the draft plan. So again, we thank you for your time. We do want to hear any questions, feedback that you have, either about the process or about the plan, or about, if you've got some ideas about how the town could meet its housing goals, address its housing needs. We're happy, the steering committee is happy to hear them. So I'm going to stop sharing these slides so we can see everybody. And again, you can feel free you could raise your hand and we can unmute you, or type a question to the chat. Happy to take any feedback. And if there aren't any questions or feedback, then Patrick is going to do some kind of entertaining dance moves for us to kill time.
I'm always ready.
You're wearing the right shirt for it.
Yeah, dancing. Nancy, did you have a question? So we're gonna unmute you, Nancy.
Yep.
Are you going to do that?
I have pushed the ask to unmute button, but there she goes. She's unmuted.
Has anyone donated land for the housing trust yet? No.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
And a possible change to 2 acres in zone A, how would that affect the historic district?
Well, it used to be 2 acres. So, and I don't remember the year that it changed to 3. Jim, do you know that?
Early 80s, around 82, 83.
Oh, okay, all right. Um,
Mm.
it's, the things that are existing, I think it makes a difference if you have a 3-acre lot and it goes to 2, it doesn't really change your lot. If you have 4 acres and it goes to 2, then you have 2, the opportunity, as long as wetlands, there's a lot of other things that have to be taken into account in that change. So a lot of the lot sizes in zone A, especially in the center, are pretty small. And some are still at the 2 acres that they were originally. So I think it depends on the lot. It depends on the existing structure and all of the other regulations that have to be, people have to jump through those hoops in order for it to be a lot change.
Thank you, Kim. That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. Patrick, you got to dance again.
Anything for the town.
Did you bring this?
Where's Roxy?
Yeah, exactly.
Roxy, I figured it was too much of a distraction. So Roxy is home in the cage at the moment. But
All
feel
right.
free to stop in and see Roxy and keep her up all day. So she's
All right. Will do.
going through the puppy phase currently.
Oh, what fun.
Sorry, I do have a question here in the chat box, so stop dancing. It is, what is the target date for an actual house for senior downsizing? So I think the question is, when will there actually be some senior downsizing options created? Does anyone want to respond to that? I guess I would just say, again, there's a bunch of strategies in here, including the strategy of creating a Roxbury Housing Trust organization that can start creating those options. But, most of the creating of the options, it does take a while. Once you get a housing trust started, for example, and they need to identify a property and then get zoning approvals, it can easily be, a 3 or 5 year process. But the first step is to identify folks who are interested enough in, spending some time working on this issue to get a housing trust going.
And, I think it's important too, as a member of zoning, that the zoning commission doesn't just decide things. It goes to the public, and the public has a voice, and it's important that, we are thinking ahead and making sure we're dealing with the big picture and how each of these changes will affect everyone in town. So that process takes time, to come up with something that seems reasonable, to bring it to the public hearing, to hear everyone out, and then make some of those adjustments and go forward with it or not based on public input. So all of that does take time. Well, if anyone has any questions at any time, you can certainly, as Jim said, contact several of us on zoning, but feel free, you can always email me at any time. Patrick as well, and we can answer the questions the best we know how. And if we don't know the answer, we will definitely be doing some research.
All right. What do you think? Should we?
I think we're good.
All right. Thank you so much. I mean, it's so nice outside that you guys took your time to be here tonight is so great. Again, stay in touch, come to the next forum too. And yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night.
You do the same.